only place for everything Vikings. 6, 1, 2, Vikings.
Welcome back to another episode of 612 Vikings. I am Dustin alongside with Drew, aka Skull TV on TikTok and Twitter. We're going to get into some very hefty topics today. I mean, July's already here. Training camp is just around the corner in about a couple weeks here. I'm super excited for training camp. I can't wait to get into these topics. How are you doing, Drew?
I'm doing good. Unfortunately, it's that slow part of the season where we start hyping some guys up and see how they kind of pan out. It's the peak of hope season because it's right before training camp. So, it's what makes the football fans it's their fun time of the year where they can kind of talk some smack to each other, and we'll see. Just everyone's just excited for the season, and not just Vikings fans. So,
hell yeah, you kind of get that switch to turn off of football mode and just kind of be with family for the players and stuff for a couple weeks or however long they are. So we'll get right into this here. Today we had a couple newsworthy topics. I guess in the past couple days as well, because we haven't recorded an episode in I think about 10 days. I didn't really realize that because we were just so busy with everything and finally got around to another episode here. So let's start off about a possible running back joining our running back room. One was on our team last year, had our first touchdown of the season, rushing touchdown of the season in, week 6 against Green Bay. And that's running back Cam Akers. He is expected to sign with the Vikings pending a physical. The guy that, played 6 games with the Vikings, 138 rushing yards, that one touchdown before he tore his ACL in Atlanta, was it? Pretty sure.
Yes. It was against Atlanta.
Yeah. So, just to get this off my chest, I would welcome Cam Akers in open arms. I think we'd have a really good running back by committee group because that's most likely what it'll be. It'll be Aaron Jones, your running back 1, most likely Chandler is your running back 2, and probably Cam Akers getting in there here and there. And having a really good running back group, I assume. So, yeah, what are you thinking about Cam Akers joining the Vikings for a second consecutive year?
Nothing's official yet, but Mike Florio said that as long as he passes a physical, and the good thing is all of his medical files is on hand with the Vikings from just recently going through the Achilles tear. So the Vikings do have that with their back pocket as well. It's a formality to go through the physical, make sure they check everything out, see how things are kind of shifting, if they're, if it's healing the right way, because again, since Cam Akers is a free agent, they don't really know how much it's improved since that tear until since the new league year started. So it's something that, they just got to make sure they cross every T, dot every I. So I wouldn't mind it as long as it's like an RB3 role, because I do think at this point Ty Chandler has earned that RB2 role, especially with having 3 times as many touchdowns as everybody in the running back room, essentially. So, it is something I feel like Ty Chandler has earned. He played well, stepped up really big at the end of the season to kind of give the Vikings some chances to win some games that maybe we weren't really expected to win after the Kirk Cousins injury went down. So, I do think it'd be more of an RB3 role. He'll kind of get in every now and then. Maybe if, Aaron Jones can't stay healthy, maybe he gets injured or Ty Chandler gets injured or vice versa. So it is something that would provide some depth, which is something that I do think the Vikings will need at this upcoming season with so many questions at the quarterback position.
Yeah, and with Aaron Jones, his health kind of being up in the air as well, kind of missing games here and there, especially the last 2 or I guess couple seasons now. You got to have those reliable running backs, after that as well. With Ty Chandler, I know he's missed a couple of games, early in his career as well. And then you got Cam Akers blowing out 2 Achilles injuries, or 2 different knees with Achilles injuries. So, you just got to stay healthy in that running back room. And I think being that running back by committee, you're not putting the workload on, just 1 or 2 running backs. You can kind of, in different schemes, formations, everything like that, you can get Aaron Jones on first, second down, Ty Chandler on, short yardage or whatever, passing downs. and then Cam Akers on whatever too. So you can kind of split that up a little bit. It doesn't have to be just Aaron Jones, the workhorse. So I think it'll be definitely interesting to see how Cam Akers kind of fits in that running back room with, you have Kenny Nwangu. He's most likely your kick returner. Well, he is your kick returner. I don't see him getting running back snaps that much. And then Dwayne McBride, you got Myles Gaskin, a lot of special teamers in that back half of the depth chart with running backs. So, yeah, like I said, I'm all for Cam Akers joining with the Vikings again. And like I said, we'll see how that role kind of turns out to be, because Cam Akers kind of was that running back 2, running back 1, obviously by committee, with Madison kind of, not living up to expectations as fans would have thought. Ty Chandler kind of getting in there, not as many opportunities. Akers, I thought played pretty well.
Yeah. And the thing is too, like, with Aaron Jones being in Green Bay previously, he wasn't a guy that had to be the workhorse back either. And the good thing is with him not being that, and kind of, I wouldn't say limited on, attempts, but not having to run the ball 300 times a season, like, say Derrick Henry had to do in Tennessee, it does leave some more tread on the tires versus some other guys. So, maybe that's something that they're looking into. Maybe he'll get some snaps, significant snaps. And what I like is that all three of them are kind of similar in their play styles, where they can run, but they can also catch from the backfield as well. So I would say I do think Aaron Jones should be more of that third down back, 'cause I feel like he's a better pass blocker than the other two guys, just given their size and stuff. So, like I said, I just like how each one of them is similar, but they also kind of have their little differences at the same time.
Yeah, and like I stated before, they're all going to be in their different, packages, passing downs, blocking downs, everything like that. And we can't forget CJ Ham too. He was in on third down quite a bit last year with that pass protection. And I think it pretty much worked out for the better as well. A lot of people were questioning why he was in there when you have Alexander Madison, Ty Chandler. Obviously, he doesn't block as well as, the other guys in that room, but, CJ Ham, you can't really rule him out on those passing downs as well. He's a really good pass catcher, blocker, everything in between. So yeah, it'll be like I said, super interesting how Kevin O'Connell and Wes Phillips and everybody in that offense kind of gets all these guys involved. So
yeah, and that's what they pay him the big bucks for. So
yeah, exactly. And I don't think Cam Akers is going to get a big contract. I know that's the wrong word to say, but he's probably going to get that vet minimum for the role that he's playing and just coming off of that injury, because he's been at TCO kind of rehabbing, working out everything. He's stayed in Minnesota, hoping that, the Vikings would re-sign him, and it looks like it's kind of trending that way, most likely. So, yeah, like I said, super excited for Cam Akers to rejoin the Vikings. And then,
yeah.
Did you have anything else to add to that?
I was just agreeing with you. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Well, let's get in our little SeatGeek promo here. So with SeatGeek, it is your number one place to get your tickets at concerts, events, sporting events. That's where I get my tickets. You can go to every single Vikings game, home game if you want. Really good seats and ticket prices there. You can go to any team, any stadium, anything like that. And, very, very good fees and prices on there. So make sure you guys download SeatGeek for $20 off your first purchase using code THATVIKINGSFAN, all one word. And you guys get to see JJ McCarthy in person. You get to see Dallas Turner in person, Justin Jefferson, your favorite players and all that. So yeah, make sure you download SeatGeek. Right. So with that said too, we got some punter competition as well. We have Ryan Wright and then Seth Vernon. I don't know. Ryan Wright really hasn't had the best season last year. He had a really good rookie season, and then just last year just did not perform as well. He had a 59 PFF grade, just for punts, which was tied for 22nd in the league. So kind of that lower half. And then everything else PFF wise was just kind of middle of the pack. And with a guy with a bigger punting leg, you thought that, you would get it in the 20 more often, or inside the 20, kind of pin your opponents. But I guess just looking back at it, he just wasn't super accurate, if that makes sense. Just kind of, I don't know, something wasn't right with Ryan Wright, no pun intended. But Seth Vernon, I guess the reports are he's kind of outperformed Ryan Wright this offseason. And granted, it's only OTAs, not too much you can really judge off of that, besides your accuracy, your distance, pinpointing your punts, everything like that. We're not punting experts, but just saying, Seth Vernon, he might be your 2024 Minnesota Vikings punter. What do you think of that?
I know we talked about it a couple episodes ago too, and this is something that I wasn't really expecting to kind of be a bigger deal than it was. I mean, because let's face it, if it's punter news, so it's
Yeah.
not the easiest click worthy article you're gonna see, but and it's gotten the reason why we're talking about it more now is because Alec Lewis of the Athletic is saying that Seth Vernon is now leading the competition. It's no longer just a competition, like it is a competition still, but it's not like, oh, we're just bringing in competition just to see or try to drive Ryan Wright to be better. We might be getting a whole new punter in general. So that is something that is a little bit shocking, but in a way, I feel like it could be a little, good too, because you're not spending that big money on a punter, and it is
Mhm.
something that I feel like you really shouldn't have to at time. I mean, yes, they help out, but if you can get, you know, it's just one less thing you have to worry about. If you can try to keep your special teams costs at a minimum, that's usually good because you could spend your money elsewhere on, positions that are going to see the field more often than just, you know, just special teams essentially. So, uh, the fact that it's more he's leading the competition is really shocking too because it's just this guy is just not somebody we really heard of at all. Really, is just the kind of a guy that we thought was just a camp body, and for him to come out of nowhere like this and possibly dethrone a sitting punter is just it's kind of crazy to think that this could all happen.
Yeah, and obviously right now we got to take everything with a grain of salt because, you know, in an OTA, you can lead a competition, but once it comes down to a full team operation for special teams, you got to hold the punts. You got to, in Ryan Wright's case, he threw a couple passes last year too. A couple fake punts. So if Seth Vernon can throw, that adds to his resume as well. So I don't know, just to have a little bit of fun with that. I don't
Yeah,
know. Like
yeah.
there's a whole operation. You got to hold the punt. You got to punt. Obviously, you got to be
You got to
accurate.
hold the
Yeah,
kicks.
hold. So yeah, it's definitely interesting that someone known as, like you said, a camp body is coming in and outperforming your second year vet punter.
Yeah,
Definitely interesting. We'll see how I guess training camp kind of rolls around and how that full team operation looks, because I don't know, Seth Vernon, he's a 6'5" punter, I think, to
230.
230. So he's a big guy. He looks like a linebacker. He's built like a linebacker. And me and Drew were talking off air that he was a wide receiver before he turned punter. So,
Yeah.
could you get him in some sweeps on fake punts? I don't know. I don't know if the Vikings will be that ballsy, but I don't know. Definitely interesting to see that Seth Vernon is, the lead horse for this competition.
Yeah, and I had his stats up here. It wasn't like he was 1,000-yard receiver, but he did have 6 touchdowns in 2 seasons and 26 receptions. So he was a little bit lower on the depth chart, but maybe it's one of those things where maybe 10 years ago we're using Seth Vernon as like our Marquette King. He's got some speed on him, so that's definitely something that will maybe come in handy in Madden or something for some like cheesy play or something. So, but yeah, I think it's just kind of interesting to see like his doing some research, seeing his journey, kind of going from this wide receiver to a punter to trying to find a team, and the Vikings might it's looking like they'll be the first team where he could be the perceived starter if Alec Lewis's prediction is right.
And it's not like Seth Vernon is a rookie either. He spent time on the Falcons, I believe, last year. I think last year was his rookie
Hmm.
year, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly. So, um,
and Bradley
yeah,
Pinion is pretty good too. So it's not like the Falcons had some scrub at punter.
yep.
I mean, Bradley Pinion's a guy that's been around for quite a bit. So and now that he's getting a chance on a guy like Ryan Wright, who's not Bradley Pinion, but he's he's average to below average punter, I would say, last year. And this is kind of like his first real shot, but and it's looking like this will be his first time to be an NFL punter.
To kind of compare it to, it's kind of like not the exact same situation, but let's see, what was it back in like 2019, 2020, something like that, 2021. I don't know, a couple of years ago, we had traded for Kyrie Vedvik, the kicker from Baltimore, where as you guys can tell in the YouTube audience, Drew is not happy with that name. No, you had Justin Tucker being your lead horse. Obviously, you're not really going to beat him out, but is a healthy competition with him and Vedvik. And the Vikings saw, I guess, something in Kyrie that told him to trade. What was it? A 6th-round pick for him?
I think it was a 4th or something like that. It was
something really high. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really high. Yeah. And
so,
it was at the time too, where a lot of people are wondering, could he be a kicker and punter and kind of save a roster spot too? So I think that's kind of what drove the value up on that guy. But,
right, because he looked really good in preseason for the Ravens, and, Vikings needed a kicker coming off of, what was it? Was it Dan Bailey, or was that, I think it was Dan Bailey.
I believe it was like a healthy competition with Dan Bailey, because I believe when we signed Bailey as a free agent after we cut Daniel Carlson, he wasn't really the same Dan Bailey he was in Dallas.
Right.
And Grant, I mean, it kind of did work out at the end of the, for that season, short term, Dan Bailey did kind of turn it around in 2019, where he was a solid kicker. I mean, he wasn't the Dan Bailey that was in Dallas by any means, where he's the all-pro kicker, but he was a reliable kicker in 2019 alone. And then, 2020, and then all that was just a debacle after that. But, he did put up a good season that year. We did trade for Kyrie Vedvik. So, let's just say you win some, you lose some. But at the end of the day, the Vikings did get a reliable kicker for that season alone, which is basically what they kind of wanted, just more stability and reliability, because they kind of were all in limbo after the Kai Forbath fiasco, after letting him go.
Yep. And like I said, it's going to be a healthy competition for these punters. It doesn't really sound like it's a competition for the kickers. I think Will Reichert kind of has that on lock right now against John Parker Romo. So, two guys that were kind of camp bodies. One of them at least is quote unquote panning out to the competition, and then the other, the rookie, one from Alabama, is kind of taking charge in that. So yeah, that's all I got on Seth Vernon. So yeah, it'll be definitely interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
All
right. So this next message will be brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, where they have over 1 million fans currently playing, where you can bet the highers and the lowers. You can have 20 times the bet with some spicy picks thrown in there as well. That can make it up to 3.5 times your bet and 100 times total if you bet 5 games. And like I said, you can do basketball, you can do football, you can do all kinds of sports. And it's the easiest app to use because it's just a simple over-under bet. And sometimes they'll have some good specials for you to use at Underdog Fantasy, where you can use Dustin's TikTok handle, which is THATVIKINGSFAN. You can get some deposit matching on your first bet.
There you go. Use code THATVIKINGSFAN, and you get, I think, a match up to $230 if I remember right. Some great like that. So make sure you guys go install Underdog Fantasy today, especially with the NFL season coming up. Definitely a must. Definitely a must.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, next, our not last topic, but one of our last topics. JJ McCarthy, he's kind of been in the news recently as of kind of I guess just being in the news, just to keep it simple like that, because the Vikings kind of kept it, undercover with him being in the news and just being a topic to even talk about. Really, he's been kind of under the radar. And Thielen went on, let's see, what was it? I think K-Fan, and was talking to Paul Allen about, working out with JJ McCarthy, because that whole video went viral with Thielen working out with McCarthy, catching passes from him, and just kind of saying McCarthy has all the tools, being accurate, can sling the ball, just everything like that. And just the maturity of JJ McCarthy, will definitely go a long way in this league. And I don't know, it's kind of cool to see JJ McCarthy and Adam Thielen kind of, work out together, catch passes, throw passes, and everything like that. And Blake Cashman also had some things to say, as he's going to be a great player for a long time. I can't wait to see the continue in his growth and just all of that. So to see Thielen and Cashman kind of give praise to McCarthy, they definitely didn't have to, but it's something that perked their interest, and best for the team that McCarthy is, I don't want to say panning out, but just kind of I don't know, like, I don't know what the best word or phrase to use, but just kind of panning out, I guess. I don't know. What do you think of that one?
Yeah, and it is worth noting that Adam Thielen was hyping up Bryce Young last year as well, for some people that may not be the biggest McCarthy supporters, but it's a little different when it's your teammate and you kind of have to hype him up to give him that confidence versus another guy who, one, is in your own conference. And you're probably, if, let's say, Bryce Young pans out and JJ McCarthy pans out, you're probably going to be seeing each other at some point in the postseason if they all work out and all that. So it is something worth noting for that too. And it also could be just that he's a Vikings fan still at heart too, and it's his former team and all. But we'll see what like I said, it really just matters on what he'll do on the football field. So it is worth noting that he is getting attention from other teams as well, and it's not just guys within his own locker room that are just hyping him up, because sometimes it's kind of hard for us fans to know the difference if you're just hyping your young quarterback up or if you're actually meaning it. So, like I said, we've seen it all year where you know they were hyping up Mitchell Trubisky, Justin Fields in Chicago and all, and it really didn't work out over there as well. So we'll see how it all goes, and it is something that is worth noting for sure.
Yeah, and I don't know, it's kind of nice to see, like you said, that these players are hyping him up, putting the air in his tires, because I feel like Thielen really wouldn't work with McCarthy if McCarthy was, on track to be like a bust, or, he's not that great of a quarterback or anything like that. And Thielen didn't have to come out to, obviously he does come out to Minnesota. This is, his home and everything like that. But, to practice with McCarthy, he could have practiced with Nick Mullins, Bryce Young, just anybody, but for it to be McCarthy, that's obviously saying something. And then, a defensive player, Blake Cashman, most likely a first string linebacker, I guess, base defense guy, with Brian Flores, where McCarthy is probably that second, third string guy as of right now. Cashman really hasn't seen much of McCarthy, and the fact that he's saying this as well, kind of pumping up the air as well, it's definitely nice to see. And I hope McCarthy plays pretty well in the chances that he gets with the Vikings, whether that's preseason or regular season, obviously. So yeah, kind of excited with all that.
Yeah, for sure. That really just kind of caps off. I feel like I pretty much had said everything that I need to say when it comes to that. But unless you have any other comments on JJ McCarthy or anything. But
no, we really haven't seen too much yet from him. It's been kind of hidden under the rug for a while now, until we get to training camp and till the preseason at least too. We can't really get a fair judgment on McCarthy yet.
Yeah, like he hasn't taken a snap yet, so only time will tell, and we'll see how it kind of goes. We'll kind of get a glimpse of that in this upcoming preseason, and maybe a little bit in training camp too. But kind of transitioning to our final point of the day, another rookie that has been kind of in the news for the Minnesota Vikings was Kyrie Jackson. So some old quotes, or it was a couple months ago, he was at the NFL Combine and he was trying to make a name for himself. So he was asked who was the best receiver that he went up against. And he said, now Broncos wide receiver, Troy Franklin. And knowing that he wasn't the number one Pac-12 quarterback taken in that entire draft, some guys were saying it was some shade to Rome Odunze. So when that came out, Kyrie Jackson tweeted this following that viral interview that kind of resurfaced within the last week. So He said, quote, "If you mad, go to church, comma. Show me when Rome scored on me, please. He had good games versus our defense, but one-on-one versus me, I'll wait." So, Dustin, what are your kind of thoughts about the rookie kind of coming in and throwing some shade at a division rival and a former Pac-12 foe like that?
I think it's definitely a moment that you got to grab your popcorn and just watch how it unfolds. Because if the reports are true that Kyrie Jackson has looked good in OTAs and with training camp around the corner, if he plays pretty well and earns a starting spot in that defense, whether that's cornerback 2 or 3, whatever it is, I think he'll have a chance or two when the Bears game comes along. If there's any injuries, God forbid, or whatever the circumstances, if Kyrie Jackson comes out and gets a starting role once that Bears game comes around, that Rome Odunze and Kyrie Jackson duo is going to be very fun to watch, because Rome definitely knows about it. They're definitely jawing at each other, and yeah, I think it'll definitely be interesting to see. I'll definitely have to grab my popcorn for that one.
Like I said, it's something that's it'll either be on Old Takes Exposed or they already knew. So
Yep.
we'll see how it goes, and it is something that could possibly happen this year too. So Rome is a guy that can kind of play more the outside. He's more of that boundary receiver. And I think the only guy that he would probably have to beat out would probably be Shaquille Griffin. But if there's an injury, a rotation or a certain defensive package where he'll face him one-on-one, we might get some looks on what this little budding rivalry could be. And it is something that Vikings and Bears fans are kind of all taking too, because they also drafted a rookie quarterback of their own. So, and let's not forget too, they both hired their GMs at the same time in the same off season. So it seems like it isn't just something that is just the last couple of months. This has been something that's been ranging from 2 years ago when both the GMs got hired and in the same season, the same head coaching trees. I do still think the jury's still kind of out a little bit on each of the GMs, just because I try to give GMs a little bit more of a longer time than players, just because you're talking about a whole team versus just one position. So, Ryan Poles has made some moves. Kwesi's made some moves that have worked out, and it's close. I mean, like I said, we'll see. This could be the class that can kind of determine who the better guy is. Did it work out by trading a already established quarterback in Chicago and Justin Fields and trading back from one last year and you land Caleb? Maybe things go the right way there, or does everything blow up in their face? And does Kwesi win that one because they traded for a guy like TJ Hawkinson, who's, top 3, top 5 tight end in the league, wherever you have him ranked. So I don't know. This is something I'm waiting for the answer. I'm very anxious to see who comes out on top between these two NFC North foes here.
Yeah, and with you talking about, the two GMs, I think that, well, I don't think I know that, both kind of had a different approach to their teams as well, where Ryan Poles kind of blew up everything right away, where Kwesi kind of took a little bit longer. He kind of ran it back with the 2021 squad. And then, it didn't, I guess it did work out, but it didn't at the same time. And then this last year, he kind of moved on from everybody, Eric Hendricks, just everybody. And then this year, Daniil Hunter, Kirk Cousins. So I guess they kind of both moved on from their quarterbacks at the same time. But other than that, they both took different approaches, and they're kind of in the same boat now, where you kind of have a younger team on both sides and, a rookie quarterback. I think Williams obviously is going to start, where McCarthy might take a little bit of time to start. Other than that, I think the Vikings have the edge over being a more complete roster. So yeah, we'll definitely see how that pans out in the next, I think, at least 3 to 5 years, how this all turns out. Rookie contracts, just younger roster in general. So yeah, definitely grab your popcorn from this one as well.
Yeah, and it is something to note too that this isn't a sprint; it's a marathon. So, if Caleb Williams does come out, he starts firing, and he's the guy that everyone's hyping him up to be. it's like I said, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Let's see what McCarthy does, because 2020 is a very good class to show. Like, you had the sprint and then you had the marathon, where the marathon was more Jordan Love. Your sprints were more your Justin Herbert. So then you had some guys in the middle like Tua, who was, he didn't really light it up his rookie year. He kind of took a season or two. Joe Burrow really came out in year two. So, after that ACL tear, he took his team to the Super Bowl. So, I mean, like I said, it's something that is going to be monitoring for a while, and I'm just excited. It's definitely something that I'm really looking forward to, and it's kind of nice to see how both these GMs are kind of constructing the rosters, like you said. They both kind of took different approaches to everything. Where it kind of felt like the Vikings were more, like I said, more of a complete team when they both got hired. The Bears really were aging. They had some expendable contracts where the Vikings really didn't, and everyone kind of knew they were underperforming. That was really prevalent in year one. So, like I said, I'm excited. I just want to see how I want to get to the end of the story here and see how these GM rivalries are going to end, because we're kind of getting to that point now.
I know this offseason especially has been super interesting, especially with all the signings that Kwesi has made. And I don't know, like, I just want the season to be here already, just to see how it all unfolds. And, like, when JJ McCarthy will play, he might not even play at all this year. It might be another year or two, I don't know. However long it takes. I'm just super excited. And, it's a great time to be a Vikings fan. Very optimistic about this team moving forward. And yeah, I think it's in very good hands with Kwesi and O'Connell. And yeah, I guess the whole division is just kind of looking up as well. You have the Lions, they're not the 0-16 Lions anymore. I guess you can call them good now. And then the Bears, they're going up. The Packers, they're still a good young team. And then, the Vikings are in that same bin as well. So yeah, it's super interesting for NFC North fans, just, around the globe, United States, whatever, Midwest, wherever we are. So yeah, it'll be, like I said, super interesting.
Yeah, and I think this is something that all NFC North fans can agree on, that this upcoming season, the NFC North will be the best division in football. I am calling it now. So when it comes to, I think, it'll be something where, kind of a couple of years ago it was the NFC East, it was the NFC West a couple of years ago, where it felt like all the teams were winning. AFC North is also kind of in that bin too. And I do think this could be it has potential to be the best division in football. And, if, some things have to go each team's way, obviously, I do think the AFC North going into the season will be, but at the end of the season, I would not be shocked if the NFC North comes out on top. But if you're a fan of the North teams, it's a North rivalry to see who's the best one. So, like I said, it's exciting for all teams in this division. So we'll see how it kind of plays out, like you've been saying. So
yeah, only time will tell, and it's definitely an exciting time to be a Vikings fan. So yeah, that's all that we got for you guys today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. Make sure you guys hit the like and subscribe button down below for those of you that are on YouTube. Follow us on podcast platforms such as Apple Podcasts and Spotify as 612 Vikings. Follow us on Twitter or X at 612 Vikings. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Skol Vikes.